Hey guys, welcome to A Day with a Purpose. My name is Samantha, and I invite you all into this podcast with the hope that you will be inspired, uplifted, and that you will grow in your faith as I talk about real life experiences, my own journey of faith, and everything in between. I hope this podcast encourages you to laugh, learn about God and the Bible, and it shows you that our holy God of the universe loves you and created you with a purpose, and this is a day with a purpose. So without further ado, let's get into the next episode. Welcome back to A Day with a Purpose. Last episode, I talked about grief. This episode, I want to lighten things up and talk about kids. In particular, my own kids. I have 4 daughters, ages 18, soon to be 19, 17, 8, and 5. Now, I had always been told that going from 1 to 2 kids is hard, but anything after that, you're already doing multiple things for kids, so it's not nothing. It's a breeze. That's not true. When you have 3 kids, you feel like you have a lot of kids. When you have 4 kids, you feel like a circus every single place you go. It will really test your parenting patience to a new level. I may be known to get on LSN. Clint has a theory, and he's convinced I just want to constantly be mothering something and caring for something. And, I mean, he might be right, because I do go through spurts of getting on LSN and looking for these little schnauzers and these little cute puppies, and they will get you. Do not go looking on your local sales network for any little puppy or any little cute animal, because you'll find it. They're there. Don't do it. But I thought I'd take you all the way back to when my firstborn came into the picture and tell my birth story with her and how I ended up having her natural with no pain medicine. This was in no way, shape, or form a conscious decision that I made. It was one that was imposed on me against my will, but it was ultimately my own stubbornness that led to it. So when you get to the last few weeks of pregnancy, if you're anything like me, you're ready, you're done with being swollen, the hot, everything you do, you sweat, nothing fit, everything you eat gives you heartburn, you're ready to see your baby and not be pregnant anymore. Some women are the exact opposite. They love it. They love pregnancy. They could do it all the time. I suffered from a lot of morning sickness the first trimester with all of my kids. So the middle of my pregnancy was not bad, but towards the end, I was always ready to have my baby. So I was pregnant with Peyton, my first daughter. This would have been January 2006. I had been to the doctor and I'd been told I was dilated like 1.5, which wasn't anything. You have to dilate to 10 before you can deliver. And apparently you can stay at a 1.5 for 2 years, or that's what it felt like for me at the time. But you can stay at that for a few weeks. And I must have already been to the doctor to the previous week and not been progressed, because I was so discouraged that I wasn't dilated further than I was. I remember having some Braxton Hicks contractions and thinking maybe my body is doing something and I'll just go to the hospital. They'll just go ahead, put me into labor so I can have this baby already. Maybe I'm dilated enough to just be put in. So I go to the hospital. They tell me, no, you're not in active labor. You got to go home. But they offered to give me some sleeping pills, and they said that would relax my body and possibly put me into labor. My sister was standing there, and she said, do not take these pills. I'm not sure exactly why she said that, but I said, I'm taking them. If they're going to, help me get this baby out sooner, I'm going to take them. And she looked at the nurse, and I can remember her saying, if you give her this medicine and you send her home, she will have that baby at home. She's not going to come back up here. Like, she is so stubborn. And she is right. I almost had my baby at home because I was not going to come back up there thinking that there was a possibility they was just going to send me back home. Take the sleeping pills. By the time we get maybe 5 minutes down the road, I was out. And I vaguely remember walking up the steps into our house, and I don't recall anything else until I woke up and started having some cramps, and my mom was right down the road from where we were renting at the time, and I called her to come get me, and she did. And I was having contractions at her house. I was there a couple of hours. I guess I went back home and they started coming more frequently. I can remember Clint's parents were over our house at the time visiting, and all I could do was just pace the floor in the kitchen. I was in active labor, but being a first-time mom and having a high tolerance for pain, I, for whatever reason, did not think I needed to start packing to go to the hospital. I took a shower and was having very active contractions in the shower. Still didn't cross my mind to alert anybody. I'm pacing in my kitchen, and thankfully my sister calls to check on me. And I know if she had not called me that I would have had my baby right there at home. But she calls me to ask how I feel, and she's already had 2 kids by this time. And she tells me to time them to see how far the contractions were apart. And they were like 5 minutes apart. And she says, I'm coming to take you to the hospital. And Clint says, no, I'll take you. And so my mom and my sister say, we're going to meet you up there. I'm gripping the dashboard the entire way there, but I'm not saying anything because it hurts so bad to talk. I'm taking deep breaths because that really did help. The breathing helps. We get to the hospital, and the same nurse that I had just seen the day before, she says, oh, hey, did your sleeping pills work? And now no one thinks I'm about to give birth because I'm not screaming. I'm not acting like someone who's about to give birth, because I kept thinking the pain must get worse than this. Even though I was in a ton of pain, I thought there's no way that my 19-year-old self is able to handle giving birth naturally. I know I must be at like a 4 or a 5. To not be screaming and carrying on like I've seen women do on TV. The nurse tells me to put a gown on, and I put it on, and the nurse tells me to lay down on the bed so she can hook me up to the monitors to monitor the baby and me. And I looked at her and I said, I can't lay down. I got to walk these off. And the only relief I was getting was taking these deep breaths and walking when I was having one of these contractions. And the ride up there was torture. But she tells me I got to lay down, and since I don't feel like getting into a fist fight with this woman, I lay down, and she starts putting all the monitors on me, and my sister says, maybe you're like a 3 and they'll keep you. And my mom said, yeah, let's just hope, maybe, Yes, my husband was there, but it was all going pretty fast, and I don't know if he even knew what to say, so he was pretty quiet most of the time. He would ask me something, and I'd say, don't talk to me, because his voice made me so mad at the time. And I know y'all mamas can relate to what I'm saying. When you're in that pain, actually, that's probably why he was quiet now that I think about it. But so my nurse, who was wonderful, by the way, her name was Chris, and she was amazing. And praise the Lord for all those good, wonderful, caring, and kind nurses who take care of us in the most crucial, painful, terrifying, chaotic, sick times in our lives, because a good nurse makes a huge difference in your experience. So thank you, Lord, for those good nurses out there who do it because they care about people. Chris, my nurse, checks me, and she says, you're dilated to a 7. And my mom and sister just have this look of shock on their face, and they're like, oh my gosh, a 7. That's great. And I said, okay, just give me my epidural, because just because you have a high tolerance for pain does not mean you want to experience the pain. So maybe 2 minutes pass, and I look at my mom, and I say, I have to push. And she gets this look of like panic on her face of like, what? And she goes, okay, hang on, don't. And the nurse comes in there about that time, and she's been watching the monitor from outside, and she says, I'm going to check you when you have a contraction. And so she tells me, you're dilated to a 7, but when you're having a contraction, you're going from a 7 to a 10. We're calling the doctor. You're about to have this baby. And I said, what about my epidural? She said, honey, there ain't time for that. You're about to have this baby. I have no doubt everyone could see the dread on my face, because in my mind, it was still going to get worse than what I'm feeling. So the doctor comes in, and I will say the pain only got more intense when her head came out. Other than that, I was in a lot of pain. So from a 7 to a 10, I was already in so much pain that I didn't feel it get more intense. The pain stopped as soon as she came out, but one thing that nobody tells you about is how it hurts after you have a baby and your uterus contracts back down to its normal size. That hurts, and nobody ever talks about that. So if you're an expecting mom, prepare for that. So needless to say, I waited in the Waffle House parking lot on 111 before I had my second kid to ensure that I would not miss my epidural. I received all my epidurals with all my other kids after having a baby with no pain meds, Having one with pain medicine is a walk in the park when you have had one naturally. I do believe some of my stubbornness rubbed off on my firstborn. I think her and my fourth are the most stubborn two kids that I have. Peyton is the oldest, and she's so smart, but so stubborn, just like me. And she's the one, me and Macy always say, she's the problem solver of the kids. I'm telling you, she can figure out anything. If we were lost in the wilderness with no compass, no food or water, she would figure out what foods were safe from a TikTok she's watched, build a fire from sticks to sterilize drinking water, figure out which direction we came in based on the direction the sun was setting, and determine which direction we need to walk, all while making us sunscreen from a dandelion. She's a problem solver. She's not big on telling me she loves me, but she shows me that she loves me. I can relate because my love language is not a verbal I love you, but more in actions. And she's a giver, and she has a big heart. And I mean, if she has $100 bill, it's going to be spent at Ulta, the dollar store, and TJ Maxx, and she'll always have a gift or two or three for somebody else. So she has a big heart, very, very thoughtful, and a sweet kid. Macy is the second daughter, and she has always been my little nurturing mama from the get-go. She was 8 when we had Aaliyah, our third baby, so Macy would see me exhausted and hadn't slept, rocking Aaliyah, and sometimes Aaliyah would even be crying, and my little 8-year-old Macy would come in and reach out her little arms and say, "Here, Mom, you want me to try?" And it would literally melt my heart, just how sweet and kind her little heart was, and her desire to want to help take some of the stress off me. All of us moms know what those first few months are like, and you're just trying to survive on little sleep. I can remember I was fixing her hair one morning, and I didn't feel good, and she was asking me how I felt, and I remember telling her I was sick. And as I was putting her hair up, I caught her saying a prayer with her little eyes closed, and I could see her lips moving as she said this silent prayer, and I knew she was praying for me to feel better. And it was just one of those moments where I thought, I may be doing a whole lot of things wrong, but I'm doing something right. And a funny story that I know my husband will never let Macy live down is a trip that we took to Florida. And we walk into our hotel room, and our kids are so excited. And this must have been our second or third time to the beach. But we go in our hotel, and we have a balcony that overlooks the ocean, and Macy is so excited, and she can't wait, and she starts towards this balcony just running, and she runs smack dab into a glass door, and in her defense, the door was so clear that you could not tell that there was a door there, as if that was not funny enough, because she wasn't hurt. But what Clint will never let her live down is the second time she ran into the door, running towards the balcony. That's the one that stamped it in our minds forever. But she's very sweet, and Macy has a big heart, and she cries easily like me, and she makes friends easily, and she has always loved the Lord, and I'm very proud of both my teenage daughters. They're growing up, and I hope they always look to the Lord for guidance and walk in His will. Aaliyah is my 8-year-old, and I always say she's my little drama queen. She's my biggest talker. She's very mature for her age, and she has a heart that just loves Jesus like I've never seen in a child. I feel the 8 years we have had with her have flown by, and it's bittersweet how fast time goes. We want them to grow, and with every stage it gets easier. So at the time, you embrace the next milestone, but then we get sad when it's over, and we're almost willing to trade the ease of not having a diaper bag packed or the exhaustion of sleepless nights just to have our babies back. Aaliyah thinks I'm the funniest person on this earth, and that's probably a direct result of homeschooling because she's not around nobody else. My oldest daughters went to a public school until 9th grade and 8th grade, but Aaliyah hasn't ever been to a public school, but that has not hindered her social skills. She will just talk to anybody, and I think that is a direct gene she inherits from her dad. Right now she's at the age of wanting to tell on her big sisters for everything, and I'll hear her in the other room, and she'll be listening to her big sisters talk to each other, and she'll say, "Did you just take God's name in vain?" and I'll hear one of them say, "No, Aaliyah." I said, "Gosh." And she'll come marching into me and she'll say, "Peyton just took God's name in vain." And when I say, "Aaliyah, she didn't take God's name in vain." And she'll say, "Is that the kind of kids you want to raise? Kids just going around taking God's name in vain?" And she came into the bathroom while I was getting ready the other day, and she said, "Are you going to have time to do my hair?" And I said, "Yeah, I should." She said, "Shoo, well, thank goodness. I was about to crash out if you said no because I'm so stressed out." Crash out is the term she used. When I say she's dramatic, this is what I mean. But she is so fun and she's so funny and she's my little mini-me. I mean, there's times that she says stuff and sounds just like me. And depending on what she says, I'm either like, "Man, I'm doing a great job at this mom thing." Like patting myself on the back over here. Or I'm like, "Good night, that kid acts just like me." But she is a really good kid, and she's a little mom to our little Lena. And Lena Sky is our fourth baby, and she's the one who looks the most like me when I was little. And Lena likes things done her way. It's her way or the highway. And she does not care to get mad at you and headbutt you if she's got to. But she's so sweet, and she's our fourth blessing from God, and she's so fun. And Lena was diagnosed with autism this year, and I was very hesitant to share that with anyone just for the fact that I don't want Lena defined by that. I want people to see my sweet little precious little girl and see Lena, not the little girl with autism. And she understands what's being said to her. She just has trouble communicating back to us in sentences. And she just processes some things differently. But having a child with autism has taught me many things. But one of them is to not assume anything when we meet someone. If someone, say an adult, comes up to you and something seems a little off, like maybe they take longer to respond, or they stare off, or they stare at you for too long, don't assume that that person is weird or talk negatively about that person, because they might have autism or they might have something else going on. I've talked to many healthcare professionals while we've sought therapy for Lena and been told that many, many people have autism, and some people don't even know that they have it, because it's not just one particular symptom or symptoms that determine whether a person has it. One person's behavior may not be like another person's who has autism. One person may be sensitive to lights, and another autistic person may have no problem with bright lights. The spectrum is broad, and all of the doctors that have seen Lena say she's very high functioning. And maybe I'll do a more in-depth episode on this subject later, but autism doesn't define Lena. Autism doesn't have Lena. Lena has autism, and God has Lena, and we are blessed that God chose us to be her parents, and we love her so much. And when they say it takes a village, you better believe it. God puts people in our lives to help us and to love us and care for us, and I don't honestly know what I would do without my village. I'm going to end this episode here. Just know that God is with you. He is for you. He loves you, and He created you with a purpose. Until next time, bye guys.